So I've played mostly every single GTA game up to this point, from all of the mainline releases down to some of the handheld games, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with them. And one of the last few remaining games that I hadn't gotten to yet and kind of been avoiding for a while was Chinatownwars, and this was a very interesting game. When Chinatownwars came to the DS back in 2009, it became another one of those GTA games that you could play on the go. It then came to the PSP that same year after selling it terribly on the DS, and a lot of people loved the game and how it was able to stay relatively the same to how GTA is known for, but was able to be different from the other games in the series. Only problem was that Chinatownwars was kind of overshadowed by the other previous handheld games, Vice City Stories and Liberty City Stories, which were much bigger 3D open world games that have been ported over to the PlayStation 2. Now, like I said again, this is a game that I've been avoiding for years at this point, mainly because as someone who primarily plays 3D open world games, I didn't want to play a isometric 2D-ish type game, because I played some of the original Grand Theft Autos and I didn't really like them, but I respect them for what they were, so I just went out and played every other game in the series. And after beating all of the games, I think it's only right that now I finally talk about Chinatownwars. Now, like Vice City Stories, I emulated this game on my computer because I felt like buying a whole PSP seemed like a little too much work for me, but I beat the game in about a week. I played all of the side missions, I sold a lot of drugs, I killed a lot of cops, and I think it's safe to say that I've been sleeping on this game for a hot minute, and it is definitely a true masterpiece. Now, Chinatownwars is set in Liberty City in 2009, 1 year after Grand Theft Auto 4 took place, and I'm not really sure if it's connected to the GTA 4 timeline, like if it's a sequel or not, but in Chinatownwars you play as this guy, Hong Lee, a 25-year-old Hong Kong guy who is the son of a triad member who moved to Liberty City to deliver a sword that was passed on from his father to deliver to his uncle Kenny, to hopefully have delivered to the Liberty City triads to become a big-time member of them. However, once he gets off of the plane and arrives to Liberty City, the deal gets ambushed and all of his escorts gets killed off, and he takes a bullet near the head and gets left for dead in the ocean. And in the midst of all this, the sword gets stolen, and he makes his way over to his uncle's place, and goes out and tries to retrieve the sword, and find out who his father's killer is, and who was responsible for the ambush that almost got him killed. And I won't spoil it, but I think it's pretty obvious. Now, the story and the characters in this game are forgettable. Like, not being a hater, but like they're just not memorable or stand out really, which shouldn't be a surprise because none of the characters in this game have any animations or have any voice actors playing them. They're just on mute 24/7 with dialogue in front of them. Plus, the writing narratively doesn't really do anything differently than what we've seen throughout the entire series. It's pretty one note. It just follows the same basic mysterious revenge plot that does have some interesting moments, like when Hong Lee gets accused of being responsible for the ambush, but nothing really happens from there. The entire plot of Chinatownwars felt exactly like Vice City, where Tommy Vercetti comes to Vice City to do a big drug deal, only to be set up by the person he's working for, and the plot then revolves around him building his drug empire and killing the antagonists that try to sabotage him, which I'm not saying is bad because I wasn't expecting a 20-hour complex campaign for a handheld game. That would just be too much, but at the same time, having characters that have no animation and just have still images with no voice, I did kind of find myself zoning out from time to time and skipping to the parts that I wanted to get to that I enjoyed more, which I didn't want to do because I knew I was going to miss out on a big part of the story, but I was just so bored with it that I just didn't really care. The biggest issue that I was coming across with the story is that in the other GTA games, there were times when the missions were there for filler content to pad out the gameplay length, which usually can be boring, but they were all carried by the characters and their hilarious personality, like Vic Vance, Big Smoke, Ken Rosenberg, which made them enjoyable to sit through and never once gave me the urge to skip it. Chinatownwars just doesn't have enough personality to keep me 100% locked in during these padded out gameplay moments. There is some dialogue in this game that is really funny, and sometimes the presentation does work out when it shows close-up images of the characters and how they react to something, but it's something that doesn't really happen a whole lot throughout the game. Alright, now let's talk about what's new with Liberty City as a whole. Liberty City is kind of different, but relatively the same. Number one, the game doesn't have that gray, dingy atmosphere that GTA 4 has, mainly due to the art direction that Rockstar chose for this game, so that it would look good on a much lower resolution screen, because I don't think the game would really pop if it was gray and dark on a small Nintendo screen. I personally really like Liberty City in this game. The world still feels ginormous driving through, despite the map not including the state of Alderney, due to obvious limitations of the hardware that they were facing. When I first started playing, I thought it was going to be the old Liberty City from GTA 3, but when I started driving around, even through the top-down view, I still recognized those rundown streets I used to drive through as Nico Bellic. I should also mention that this was the first Grand Theft Auto game that I played where I couldn't recognize where I was at all times. Like, I was having a hard time recognizing and memorizing camouflage in all of the areas in the game. It was only when I was driving across the bridges that I knew that, okay, I'm entering into this city, due to the game being top down and not 3D, which is why I'm glad that they didn't include the state of Alderney, because it would just be too much of a hassle trying to drive all the way there from one end of the map, while trying to navigate through the cars and the shitty driving mechanics. And it's also probably because I'm not focused on where I'm at, I'm more focused on not trying to crash into oncoming traffic, because it's very easy to do that. I am glad though that the way the camera is positioned in this game isn't completely straight down like how it was in GTA 1 and 2 were, because in those games it was literally impossible to know what was ahead of you when you were driving. In Chinatownwars, it's still kind of hard to know what's in front of you because you just can't really see that far ahead of you, but it's slightly diagonal, which gives it an isometric look, making it more 3D rather than a full 2D game. But now that we got what's new with Liberty City out the way, I want to start talking about this game fully now, and I'll begin with how the way you make money in this game. There's multiple ways you can do it, like through completing main storyline missions, which will earn you slightly mediocre pay, side missions, driving taxis, which is if you're really desperate to make a few extra bucks, which I had to do a few times, or my favorite way, and everyone's favorite way, drug dealing. This is by far the most unique mechanic in the Grand Theft Auto series, something that none of the other games did in fact. Drug dealing is hands down the fastest and easiest way to make money in this game. You can make like tens of thousands of dollars at a time. You can buy or sell drugs for a good amount of money. The way it works is you buy drugs from dealers all around Liberty City, ranging from weed, heroin, cocaine, acid, to downers, and ecstasy. And all of the dealers sell and buy drugs at different prices. Luckily, the game makes it easy for you to understand and gives you a green plus sign indicating a potential profit, and a red sign indicating a potential loss in profits. It seems simple to understand, but for some reason I didn't understand it at first because I'm not really that smart, and I was just buying whatever from dealers all around the city, which made me lose out on a ton of money, which was my fault. So the name of the game is to buy cheap and sell for a much higher profit, and that's really all you need to know to get started. You can carry up to 50 items at a time, and once you have all of your drugs and you're ready to sell it, you have to wait for a tip-off from a dealer who wants to buy that drug, and you just drive to them, sell it, and you make a bunch of money. And it's so simple to understand, but man, it is addicting. I'm pretty sure I spent most of my playthrough just buying and selling drugs, and the funny thing is that most of the time I'm only stocking up on one specific drug, like for example cocaine. I would always grind for cocaine because it sells for a lot, and when I'm ready to sell it and I get a tip off from someone, sometimes the person will be asking for like weed, and I'm like, damn, now I gotta wait again for another tip off, which can take quite a while sometimes because they're just random. But I do really like this mechanic of the game, and it's such a great addition for a game like Grand Theft Auto, and I wish the earlier games included it, like Vice City, definitely San Andreas, and maybe GTA 4. Vice City Stories doesn't have it, but it has its own drug empire building system that is also amazing. You should watch my video about it. I talked about it a lot, and I don't know if people know this, but you can actually make more money by destroying cameras in the area when you're trying to do a drug deal. I don't know if it was just me, but that was what I noticed with my playthrough. And lastly, sometimes when you're buying or selling drugs, the deal can get busted by the police and they will swarm the area and try to arrest you. And I found out that the more drugs you sell at a time, the higher chance you have of getting busted for it, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. Most of the time when you get busted, you can escape no problem. If you get killed by the cops, nothing happens to you, just lose all your money, which is not really a big problem because you just easily make that money back. But if you get arrested, the cops will take away all of your drugs, which I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. That happened to me once. I was driving away and the cops stopped me, arrested me, and they took away all 40 of my cocaine. And I was just like, you know what, this is the worst thing that happened to my life, because coke is not cheap. And on top of getting my drugs stolen, if I don't have any money at that time either, I then have to find some type of way to make all of that money back to get those drugs back so I could sell it again, which could be a bit of a hassle. So the safest way to go about it is to stash all of your drugs at your safe houses. Safe houses in this game work the same way in every game in the Grand Theft Auto series. There's 21 of them scattered around Liberty City, and you can either directly purchase them, or you can gain access to them by just progressing through the story. And I think an interesting part about the stash houses in this game is that you can't actually walk through them, because they're just still images, and all you can do is just navigate to your stash box, your computer, or your couch to save the game, which is very cool in my opinion. I say the biggest downside with the money making in this game is that there's not really like a whole lot of cool stuff to buy besides cars, guns, and stash houses. You can't change the look of your safe houses, although the more you progress through the story, your safe houses continue to upgrade in quality. You also can't buy clothes freely, though I don't think it's a big deal because you wouldn't be able to even tell what kind of clothes he has on. But with that being said, let's now talk about this game's mechanics. So Chinatownwars is a much more hands-on type of game since it was made for the DS and iOS. For example, when you break into someone's car, instead of being able to just immediately drive away, the game makes you manually hotwire the car, and every time you do it, it's always different. They're very easy to do, and for me, I was playing with my controller, so it wasn't really hands-on for me, but I did really like the concept of it. You can also make your own Molotov cocktails at gas stations. You can dig through dumpsters. If your car's underwater, you can break your way out of it, which was something that you had to do at the very beginning of the game. And I just think it shows the developers' creativity trying to differentiate the game for the handheld players. I'd say the only touchscreen minigame that I didn't really like was the one where you had to type in the numbers with perfect timing, mainly because this one takes forever to do, because if you mess up one part, it restarts the entire process over again, and it slows me down if I'm in the middle of a time-based mission. But at least the penalty for messing up a carjacking minigame is just the car alarm going off, which will notify cops who are nearby, but to stop it, all you have to do is just get out of the car and then get back in, and the alarm will go off and the car will start, which seems realistic enough. Just thank God the game doesn't fail you the mission for screwing up one of them, because that would get very frustrating. They do heavily rely on the touchscreen gimmick throughout missions. Like, I'd say that every mission has them, which makes sense why they needed to include them, because considering the limitations they were facing with the DS and its hardware, they were very limited to what they could add that would keep the gameplay loop fresh for the players. Because besides the touchscreen minigames, all you do is just drive to a place, shoot some bad guys, or have a car chase here and there. And if that's all you did with no set pieces or anything, people would get pretty damn bored with the game. Moving to the driving handling in Chinatownwars is jank. I always talk about how the 3D games have really clunky driving, how it hasn't aged that well. Well, Chinatownwars makes GTA 3's driving look good. Like, trying to maneuver my way around Liberty City throughout the traffic, it can be an absolute nightmare sometimes. I don't know if it's just me, but the controls for me feel a little bit too arcadey and too loose. Like, I'm almost guaranteed to crash into someone when I try to slightly turn the wheel. And sometimes your car will automatically realign itself when you're driving, which is throwing me off a lot. I'd be trying to adjust myself while the game is also doing it, and the next thing you know, I'm fighting with the game's controls. There is probably a setting to fix it, so if you know it, please let me know. You can also do drive-by shootings when you have to shoot enemies in vehicles, which, unpopular opinion, I think they could have left this out the game, because these little drive-by shootings have little to no effect on people because you can't actually aim out your car. And shooting in general in this game is janky as shit. For instance, Chinatownwars still includes the lock aim that the 3D games had, because trying to free aim in this game is very hard. But in Chinatownwars, your aim will lock onto a completely different object sometimes. Like, if I'm shooting at someone and my aim is locked onto them, sometimes if they start moving around, my aim will then lock onto the person's car. Luckily, the enemy AI in this game isn't very bright, so you should be able to take them out, which isn't me saying that this game can't be hard and stimulating, because it 100% is. The times when I would get too over my head and think I'm mowing all of them down is when I would get caught off guard and die. Or sometimes my crossfire won't stop jumping from different people, which can get very, very frustrating because I'm trying to kill this one person. But it was something that I was ready to embrace when I started playing the game, so I can't really be mad about it. And of course, I have to throw this one in here. I think the wanted system in this game is a little broken sometimes. Like, I know it's Grand Theft Auto, and I'm not gonna complain that I can't commit crimes without the cops stopping me from doing it. But at the same time, like, there are so many cops in this game. Anytime I jack someone's car, 9 times out of 10 there's a cop right there ready to arrest me. And the most infuriating part about the police officers in this game is how easy it is for them to bust you while you're in your vehicle. The earlier Grand Theft Autos had this issue where the cops could just open your door and arrest you, and if they do that in a mission, you will fail the mission and have to restart it again. It's just such an inconvenience that I'm glad that got fixed in GTA 4 and 5. However, at the same time, losing your wanted level in Chinatownwars is much more fun and more structured, in my opinion, in this game. In the other Grand Theft Autos like 4 and 5, the cops would spawn in front of you and try to intercept you and stop you, and you had to stay out of the cops' line of sight to lose them. And implementing this kind of wanted system into a game where it's isometric perspective, where you can't see what's in front of you, was going to be a bit of a challenge for Rockstar. Because if Chinatownwars had this system, it would have been an absolute hell of trying to escape the police, because they'll be trying to cut you up and you can't see them on your screen. So the way they did it was they made it to where the police have a guaranteed chance of spawning right next to you wherever you are. And the way to lose your wanted level is to cause cops to crash into each other, which depending on your notoriety will knock off one of the cop cars under your wanted level. And once you lose the stars, you then have to stay out of trouble for a little bit, and then you're good after that. I personally much prefer this way to lose your wanted level, because it incentivizes the player to actually get in the action and cause cops to crash into each other and just cause a bunch of damage and have fun doing it. Whereas in the other Grand Theft Auto games, the initial chases are really fun and thrilling, but when you're trying to get rid of your wanted level, the main goal is not to crash into cop cars, it's to stay as far away from them, turning it into a waiting game basically. I'm not saying it's bad because those games are more realistic and grounded, but in terms of gameplay wise and entertainment, Chinatownwars makes the fun part of police chases also the most important part. You get to stay in the action and get rewarded for wrecking police cars and maneuvering your way around Liberty City by guiding cops into walls, cars, trees, other cop cars, etc. Plus, in a game like Chinatownwars where it's very easy to hit a pedestrian that you didn't see at first, having this quick and easy way to get rid of your notoriety system is so convenient. Because if I had to keep hiding from the cops every 30 seconds because I didn't see them, that would get very annoying. And with the wanted system, however many stars you have at a time, like let's say say you have 4 stars, there will always be 4 cop cars chasing you, and if you wreck one of them, then your wanted level will drop down to 3, and 3 cop cars will be chasing you, and so on and so on. It's really cool how it works for this game, because since it's isometric, you won't be able to see the other cop cars disappearing and reappearing, which wouldn't be able to work in the other games because it's fully 3D. And I think that this is what my main love for this game is. It may seem like the game doesn't do much at first, but once you start playing it, it has so many more cool things that the other games don't have. And it also has so many unique mechanics that only works for this game. Its use of touchscreen minigames, its unique wanted system makes it stand out from the other Grand Theft Auto games. And some of the other stuff like the drug dealing system is some stuff that I wish that Rockstar can take into account, that people really did like it, and hopefully they can implement it into GTA 6, hopefully, because it's such a fun, addictive minigame to do in your free time, and it would honestly be a wasted opportunity not to include it. And I didn't mention this, and I figured I'd just throw it in here because I think it's funny. Chinatownwars is the first Grand Theft Auto game that doesn't feature the helicopter in the top left in the box art, meaning you can't fly in this game, which was a bit of a letdown. The only time you encounter helicopters is when they occasionally fly over your head during or after police chases, although in the mission Hit from the Tongue you can act as the helicopter, and you can shoot weapons out of it, but you don't have any control over it. And once the mission is over, you can't store it anywhere. I am sure that there's a way you could fly a helicopter in this game with the use of mods, but it won't be accessible for the average player of the game. So therefore, 0 out of 10 game, because it doesn't feature the iconic helicopter in the corner. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching to the end of this video. I've been meaning to talk about Chinatownwars for a while now, because I just haven't gotten to it because I've been avoiding the game for a while, because I was worried that the isometric view was going to be a huge turnoff for me, but surprise surprise, I ended up enjoying my time with the game. It unfortunately got written off by a lot of people because of its radical departure from the 3D aspect that made the game so popular in the first place. I mean, after all, this game came out 1 year after Grand Theft Auto 4 came out, which was one of the biggest graphical upgrades for Rockstar games and gaming in general. But feel free to leave any game suggestions in the comment sections below that you guys would be interested in me covering. Happy holidays, best time of the year hands down. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting my channel throughout the year. It's been an absolute blast. I'm really excited to continue doing this, growing, learning, stepping the quality of my videos up, and just meeting new creators to interact with more. Because not only do you guys watch my videos, but you guys actually give me tips on how to be like a better YouTuber, which I can't thank you guys enough for that. 2,000 subscribers may not be a whole lot in the YouTube space, but for me, having 2,700 random people all around the globe living their own lives watching my videos is just so cool. And I just think that it's so cool how like adults like hearing my opinion on these games that were, you know, before my time. So thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoy your Christmas, and I'll see you guys next year in 2025. See ya.